Feinberg's remarks. Joining us now from Bloomberg San Francisco Bureau, Frank Glassner. He's the CEO of Veritas Executive Compensation Consultants. He's advised corporations and compensation committees for more than 30 years. Sir, welcome to Bloomberg News. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me back again. Certainly seems like Ken Feinberg has got a tough job these days.
Yes, sir, no doubt. I was wondering, because you did hear some of what he said. One thing that particularly struck me, Mr. Feinberg telling our Peter Cook, he said that bonuses should not be done away with, but that, quote, the bonus culture should be tied to performance, not guarantees. Is that the way to go?
Well, certainly I agree, and we're certainly not going to fix executive pay in America until we do eliminate guarantees that allow executives, especially in the companies that have gone down like sinking ships, to sail away in lifeboats of gold while the rest of the men, women, and children go down with the ship. However, what we're saying in one breath is to not so much create pay that's linked to performance, but I'm almost hearing that this bonus culture is eliminated. In other words, pay for performance, having salaries and salary caps, et cetera, being put in place, and then taking the rest of the pay and then deferring it mostly into company stock and requiring a hold for about 4 years or so.
Right.
That sounds like the incentive pay culture is not only being constricted, but it's being destroyed. And honestly, what we need to do here is not focus on how much pay that we pay executives or key contributors in these companies,
right,
but how we pay them.
Mr. Glassner.
And in fact, really link pay to performance, not try and put in place some of these artificial caps.
Mr. Glassner, you've heard the critics who say that what this does is, in effect, it penalizes success, it penalizes hard work. Do you buy that argument?
Oh, I certainly buy it, and not only buy it and support it, and that's been history repeating itself over and over here. What we're really doing is taking the cream of the crop, those individuals who are in fact the star performers, and we're not saying these are people that say they're star performers, but they have very, very clearly defined and easily understood performance in the company, and they've achieved it, just like Andrew Hall at Philbro with the famous $100 million pay package. What we're going to do, just like we did with Andrew Hall, is to chase them into companies either that are foreign offshore companies or those companies that are not under the guise of these TARP-related companies, and chase them there. Any individual who's a performer has the opportunity to leave these organizations, and I really think that they will.
Frank, what about the other side of this, though? I mean, we're talking about $500,000. This is not a small amount, perhaps when you look in comparison, but still not a small amount. And you're talking also in 5 years about the potential to then make that much more if you do indeed decide to sell your stock. And then perhaps also sort of the bragging rights of turning some of these companies around. So, I mean, is that insignificant?
Well, $500,000 as compared to the ability to make, many, many times that may seem like a small amount of money, but in fact, that's really artificially constricting pay. And again, those individuals who have the opportunity to make far more than that in non-TARP-related companies or those companies that aren't regulated will likely leave. As it relates to pushing, compensation into the stock-related vehicles and causing a hold, look, I think everyone would agree that the capital markets are close to an all-time low. And putting this money into the stock and the companies in, stock that will likely rise up, with the success not only of the companies, but the rekindling of American business is not the way to go at all either, because we're going to get an artificial rise in stock in a rising bubble of capital markets and perhaps unfairly compensate these people many, many times over what they could be earning in these performance-based compensation programs. And again,
And Mr. Glassner, I'm sorry, we're coming up on a commercial break, but we do want to keep you here through the break. Frank Glassner of Veritas will be talking about compensation, executive comp.
Welcome back. I'm Julie Hyman, and we're going to continue now our conversation with Frank Glassner. He's CEO of Veritas Executive Compensation Consultants. Frank, thanks for hanging around with us through the commercial break. We were just talking about the compensation here, and you're saying we are going to see a defection of a lot of folks. Let's get to the last point that I talked about, which is the sort of bragging rights or the sort of reputation that may come from turning some of those firms around. Do you think that may be something that may keep some of these folks at these companies?
Well, certainly there's the compensation of the ego, but there's absolutely nothing like taking home a healthy paycheck, and that paycheck should certainly be linked to the success of the company, and there should be no question that you had the bragging rights to say, I did a great job, I helped to turn the company around. There's very, very clear performance achievement and a large paycheck to match that. But I think that where we've run into, many of the roadblocks here are the fact that individuals took home those multi-million-dollar paychecks in light of the company failing, all because of ill-designed pay programs that weren't pay-for-performance oriented, or the guarantees that have been eliminated. And I couldn't tell you, I agree with Ken Feinberg completely that these guarantees ought to be eliminated, and perquisites such as personal use of corporate jets, or other guaranteed pay packages or guaranteed matches of executive pensions should be eliminated, because that's just very, very bad optics. But to eliminate and destroy an incentive culture is a bad thing indeed.
Do you think that's going to happen, though, the elimination of these types of perks you're talking about and the elimination of guaranteed incentives? Is that going to happen at the non-regulated firms? Do we see a cultural shift here that's not going to come through regulation?
Well, the type of irritants that the optics of these affinity benefits like corporate aviation, or I should say, exclusive personal use of a corporate jet, that kind of irritation would, in fact, inflame any shareholder. And many companies are doing away with these things, or at least having very, very careful use of it. And also these issues with regard to the caps really do spill over into the non-TARP related companies. I can't think of one of my boards or any board of a public company that isn't thinking about what Ken is saying right now, and with good cause. But on the other hand, we can't just eliminate pay for performance, put artificial caps in place, because in fact it'll take the best and brightest and it will drive them out of the company because they have left.
How long is all of this going to last, though? I mean, obviously public opinion right now is very high and inflamed, as you said, against some of these practices. But once the economy does gain more traction, do you think these kinds of things will come right back into play?
I really don't. I think that there's a degree of thoughtfulness that's been instilled in executive pay as well as executive pay practitioners. And in fact, again, no one is really going to do anything that is foolish or doesn't appear to be best practices, because honestly, they may have well just put on a pair of red flannel pajamas and go running around in a field of bulls, not only now, but in the future as well. I'm
sure that your clients they see this a chilling effect here, but has the discussion ever turned to the other side? And I understand, you've heard the term populist outrage, that people see at least the criticism of all of this, of the executive pay limits and such, that the folks on Main Street are the ones who are suffering, that they hear about this executive compensation. They see people, as you say, getting golden parachutes, but so many Americans are out of work. So many Americans are losing their homes. Is there a disconnect here? Do your clients understand that outrage?
They understand it completely, and honestly, for every bad apple CEO there was that walked out with a multi-million-dollar pay package, like I said, as the ship sank, there's 99 hardworking ones that are trying to get paid right now. They're very, very sensitive indeed to what employees think, stakeholders, members of the communities think. And again, as long as there is like-in-kind returns to the shareholders, as well as great optics of these pay plans,
right,
you're going to have a good pay plan indeed and a great executive. But no one should, collect the buckets of money in light of their employees being laid off, or in fact the community around them not doing well.
Frank, I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to another type of regulation. Frank Glassner of Veritas, thank you so much for joining us. In the meantime, the House of Representatives is voting on new rules for Wall